If you had to describe like how Chicago impacts your EDM sound and that electronic sound, how would you say like Chicago impacts that sound, or would you even say it impacts it at all?
When I'm leaning fully into the electronic music, not too much,
Mm-hmm.
but when I think Chicago, I think a lot of samples, and I think of old school, like how every producer was a DJ and every DJ was also a producer.
Mm-hmm.
So like I can't. Whenever I'm in the middle of the spectrum we just talked about, I I use like old school scratch samples, or like literally I started DJing last year. I started scratching myself. So that I think that's a big part of that for me. Like my dad, um, Eric B and Rakim are not from Chicago. If I'm not wrong, but my dad used to listen to them all the time, and that's all Eric B would do is just scratch, 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 and it would literally overpower the beat sometimes, and then that just I was like, that's so cool. I wanna, you feel me? So that's the big part of my music. But that's not really Chicago, but that's just the environment, because that's all the OGs was listening to
Yeah.
when I was a kid. So
So you do electronic and you do hip hop. Would you ever like lean into like R&B or something like that?
I've made R&B beats.
Yeah.
That was my so when I dropped my first hit last year, I followed up with another electronic song, obviously, but I had an R&B beat that sampled Persona 4.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's it called? Literally, I was just sitting on, and I was like, I'll drop it, and they loved it, and I was like, cool, I'm never doing it again.
Yeah.
But lately, like I said, I was talking about live instruments. I've been trying to experiment, and I have some vaulted, but I'm not very confident, because there's a lot of music theory and when you're listening to R&B, you're listening to the melody more than you are the drums. And I'm a drums person, and I like hate making melodies,
Mm-hmm.
but part of leaning into electronic music and part of is getting into that sound. You have to be okay with making melodies. You cannot sample your way out of electronic
Yeah.
music the way you can in hip hop. And I been putting myself in for a workout. But yeah, I would get into R&B. I would get into R&B more, and I am working on getting into R&B more. It's just a matter of getting out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. So like, who are some like of your favorite people to work with, like that you've worked with so far, or like that you maybe want to work with in the future? Let's start with that you worked with so far, though.
I mean, you did ask a 2-part question. So you said who would I want to work with in the future, and
Let's start with who
who
you
I
like
enjoy
to-
working with now. I mean, the entirety of Home Team, really.
Yeah.
I mean, all great guys. But my all-time favorite person to work with is like literally like my brother. Like his name six word, because we literally used to skip classes in high school and use the in-school studio to make music. And
Yeah.
I was just engineering, and I was just coming with some beats.
Mm-hmm.
But like just how like we have literally, I have been engineering him for like the past 5 years. Like there's just this symbiosis when it comes to us recording that is just like I could literally be in a studio, order a pizza, and tell him slide, and we'll just be in there for 2-3 hours just making music, chilling. And I think the camaraderie was why that's such a fun process, because there's not a lot of butting heads, which is not but don't get me wrong, butting heads is not a bad thing, because you want to have more than one opinion and more than one voice. But is when you click with a person you just know, it's a whole nother level
Yeah.
of creativity.